قبل ما ابدا تيكن، قبل ما نخش في الرانك كده، شفت محتوى عنوانه عجبني قوي، فقلت نشوفه مع بعض. عنوانه ممكن هيقول كلام جوايا مش عارف اقوله يعني، بس خلينا نشوف ده مع بعض. How to get starting in fighting games. من اخ ماكسيميليان.
For a very long time. Everyone's saying this video is pretty good. I'm curious how much this is different than some of the stuff that I say. This is a person's journey of getting into fighting games. All right, let me check this out. I'm curious to see because like
دي رحلة واحد دخل زي حالاتي كده من من ألعاب تانية للفايتنج جيمز، تيكن، ستريت فايتر والحاجات دي. خلينا نشوف بيقول ايه.
like to be and what are the things that are stopping them from getting into it. And that's why I kind of really enjoyed going over the IGN top 10 video, which is obviously somebody very versed in the fighting game scene and you know what's popular and what people like in general. And then you get the Watch Mojo top 10 video, and all these are like made by very big publication sites, by the way, like IGN and Polygon and Watch Mojo, right? I prefer not to like do it around some rando's top 10 list and just get insanely critical over some kid being like, how dare you put Mortal Kombat 11 in your top 3, you piece of shit. You know, I really don't want to do that. I feel like it's kind of interesting when you get these big publications that sort of do this. I think that's a bit different, right? I think that's, I don't want to criticize like you individuals. It's kind of interesting when you get big like journalism outlets or publications to do something like that, right? So it's funny to see how they balance their bias and their preferences and the overall perspective with what the hell is going on. So anyway, that's why we're watching this. I'm kind of really curious to see what somebody at Polygon, who obviously likes fighting games a lot, has gone through to get into them.
For a long time, I'd look at fighting games and I'd say, that looks so cool, but I don't think it's for me. I had done some casual button mashing, but I never dove into the deeper mechanics. When I saw the gold
casual button mashing ده اللي كل واحد بكلمه عن fighting games ما بيلعبش fighting games اول حاجة بيقولها لي casual mashing.
Between what I was able to do and what others were doing, I told myself there was no way I'd ever be able to get there.
This Tekken 2 cutscene.
Then, a few years ago, I decided to try for real. Was it worth it? Yes. I can tell you without exaggeration that fighting games have brought me more joy than anything else I've put my gaming hours into.
God damn, okay, video's already spitting. Video is already spitting. Okay, he's right. It's the best genre of competitive games, if not genre of games there is. He's not wrong because of the satisfaction curve, right? Not every single...
ايوه، وده من واحد مجرب كل الالعاب. انا بادئ الفايتنج جيمز متاخر، مريت على الجينرز كتير. اوافقه بشده.
game is going to be gold to every single person, but you know, finding the game that you like and essentially making the connection is something that is unparalleled. So, you know, we have a very good intro here.
It's a distinct category of enjoyment unto itself, constructed from the greatest pleasures of gaming, the childlike joy of hitting buttons and seeing cool shit happen.
Hey, this guy gets it! This guy gets it! Wow, I don't know how many times I've actually used that term. Hold on a second, let's just go back.
The greatest pleasures of gaming, the childlike joy of hitting buttons and seeing cool shit happen.
Okay, sorry.
خبط الزراير واتفرج. ايوه.
Opponent in a strategy game, the Dark Souls satisfaction of studying a boss's patterns and exploiting their weaknesses. It's meditative, it's rhythmic, it's sports, it's therapeutic, it's communal. It's the closest you're ever going to come to feeling like Rocky or your favorite shonen protagonist. It's made me happier and it's made my brain feel better. It is absolutely worth it. But it takes a lot of work, and looking at that from the outside can be overwhelming.
And this is like, that's actually a great point, right? That it takes a lot of work, and it's unfair because in a position like mine, right, where we quite literally grew up with this, right? Like it wasn't like we approached it as a, I'll switch for the sake of, you know, posterity. It wasn't like we approached fighting games as this thing that we're going to get better at, you know? No, they were just there, right? It was a relatively new genre that was debuting when we were like at a young age, and we grew up alongside them. So for a lot of us, and I see a lot of people that are new and getting into fighting games, and they're trying to ask me, like, how do you learn how to fight against people? Like, how do you actually pick up on what people's habits are and then try to use that against them? Like, they're like, I just can't do that. And that is unfortunately something that I take for granted that just comes with time. It leaves me with the impression when I tell people of what the actual investment is to become actually good at a fighting game, especially if you're starting from scratch, is just that it takes a shit ton of time.
بتاخد وقت كتير فعلا، بتاخد وقت كتير. ونفس الكلمة اللي أنا قلتها النهاردة من كام ساعة في الستريم، أنا يعني عمري ما أنصح حد يبدأ لعبة زي تيكن أو فايتنج جيمز ويخش فيها برو. لسه كنا بنتكلم على موضوع إنك تبدأ الفايتنج جيمز كاجوالي وتلعب كاجوال وتماش وتستمتع بيها. لأن لما تبص على لعبة من منظور إن أنت عايز تحترف فيها، الموازين بتتقلب تماما. الإيليمنت بتاع الفن متهيألي بيطلع من المعادلة خالص. فبتاخد وقت، بتاخد وقت ومجهود.
Then you better love the hell out of it. Once again, it's just another testament that like fighting games are no different, you know.
مش أي حد
And it's the
بيستمر
same thing
بنفس
when it comes
الحماس
to
للآخر
some of the best players in the world like Sonic Fox and Justin Wong. They're as good as they were because they grinded the holy hell out of them because they loved it. And that's just, then they took the natural process of becoming good at fighting games. Let's continue.
And intimidating. This guide is for people who have been studying that water and thinking about jumping in. Hopefully, you can use this video as a gentle, supportive push into the pool. Here's my 10-step guide for getting into fighting games without losing your mind.
And this is once again another great point of like a step-by-step
تدخل الفايتنج جيمز من غير ما تخسر
guide to sort of like let people know like all the different things you're going to run into on the way. And for me,
كان ممكن يقولها
the way I
بطريقة
like to
تانية،
approach
كان
the
ممكن يقولها
situation
بطريقة تانية
is
أفضل شوية.
instead to be like really direct about it, to be way more broad. If you don't like shoot people in the direction of direct like lessons, right? Like a curriculum of what you have to do to be good at fighting games. Because once again, that might not work, and you spend all this time and it just doesn't work out. You don't get any better. That happens all the damn time, dude. Some people just don't fit. Some people just don't. Brains don't work in that way. If you instead approach it in the way, oh, find something about a fighting game that you love, right? And that's been my thing that I've learned about people and the way people work for a long time, of like why fighting games that have terrible online still have giant communities and people that love it. And it's because they found something they love in the game, whether or not it was the content in the game or characters or stages or graphics or things like that, that they'll just sit and play it forever. So I want to see what this list says and what is the best approach for some of this stuff, and if I agree or disagree with like 30 years of experience or whatever.
Step 1. Decide you want to do it.
This one's kind of obvious,
نبدأ العك
but
بقى.
it's
إيه
also
decide you want to do
essential.
it.
Your desire to get into fighting games is going to be the thing that fuels you through the hard stuff. If you're fighting game curious, but you're not sure if you're ready to take the dive, there is some other stuff you can do to gradually expose yourself. For starters, watch some matches.
لا ما اعتقدش. لا انا ما بص بقى، انا هبدا اخالف بقى الهبل ده. واتش سم ماتشز، يعني انت واحد جديد ولسه بتتعلم كاجوال بتماش بوتن، واتش سم ماتشز مش هتفهم اي حاجه. هتلاقي ناس يعني هتشوف اللعبه عادي جدا، هتشوف الناس بتدوس على زراير برضو زي ما انت بتدوس على زراير. ما بيفهمش تعقيد الماتشات الاحترافيه الا اللي فعلا داس في الجيم، عرف الميكانيكيه بتاعها، حاول يتعلم اشياء فيها، وبعد كده بيتفرج على ماتشات بقى يلاقي المقارنه ما بين اللي اتعلمه وما بين اللي بيتعمل. لكن انت داخل جديد يعني كمان مان، داخل جديد في الجيم تتفرج على الماتشات تعمل ايه يعني؟
If cool shit's happening in a game and you think it looks
I don't know.
cool, and you got characters that you think look awesome when they do it, you already have a reason. You now have like good reason number one, you know?
Here are some of my favorites. Goichi versus Sonic Fox at EVO 2018 rules. It's like an unstoppable force versus an immovable object.
الناس ممكن تتحمس مع الهايلايتس، اللقطات الحماسية، الهايلايتس، الحاجات اللي بتتكرر مرة كل 5 سنين، لكن مش هيستمتع فعلا زي واحد فاهم الجيم وعنده خبرة فيه. اعتقد ان دي مش واحد كاجوال. الخطوة الثانية بيك ا جيم، دي مهمة بصراحة. وكان المفروض يبقى دخولي للفايتنج جيمز من انجل اهدى شوية. دخلت ضرب نار على طول في تيكن.
You need to find a fighting game that is new, that has a relative large amount of people playing at the start. Because it allows your ability to ease into the transition of learning the game a lot more a lot less cumbersome.
هو
Because if
يعني
you're jumping into an old
بالنسبه لي
fighting
هو
game that's been
ممكن
around
بيقول بالنسبه لي انا فعلا بديت البدايه دي.
for some time, if like
لعبه
for example,
مشهوره
if
ليها
I
ناس
jump
كتير ليها
into
كوميونتي.
like any rank of Tekken 7, I'm going to get my ass blasted out, and it's going to take me a few days to understand what the hell's going on in the game again, which I'm kind of ready for. But there needs to be that understanding. Like, you can't. Fighting games are a niche genre. You're not going to necessarily be able to jump in and have 30,000 people to play with at any given point unless you're playing multiverses.
A frequently asked question among the fighting game curious is, what's a good fighting game for a new player? And the definitive answer is literally whichever game you're interested in.
Good answer. Good answer. Yep.
I'm so serious
وافق
about
وبشده.
this.
good answer والله.
You need to follow your heart. Look at
Goddamn good answer. Shit. Getting some thought-provoking content out of Polygon and IGN over the past week? What the fuck is going on?
gameplay trailers, watch some big matches. Whichever game makes you feel the spark is the one that you should chase. That spark will be what fuels you when things get hard. I love martial arts cinema and pro wrestling, so for me, the game that grabbed my attention was
Tekken.
Tekken. The pace of animation is a bit
كلنا
slower than
Tekken.
stuff
كلنا
in 2D
نبدأ بتكن.
fighters like Street Fighter or Guilty Gear, so it was kind of like watching a choreographed fight scene from the movies and wrestling I love. Before I understood mid-low mix-ups and frame data, I understood that King did a sick running powerbomb and I loved to see it. You gotta find your access.
Powerbomb through the floor.
You like anime? You like nasty gore? You like ponies? Get it. But while you're following your heart, you do need to pay attention to one annoying wrinkle. Because of the old COVID, you're mostly going to be playing online, and not all games have great net play. In games that use delay-based netcode, response times can be sluggish. The good news is that if you're new, you probably won't know what you're missing out on until you taste that crisp offline stuff. If you know that you're mostly going to be playing online, consider choosing a game with rollback netcode. Rollback is an ingenious net play solution that pretty much eliminates the sluggishness inherent to online fighting games. If you want a cool explainer on how it works, check out this video by Core A Game.
Oh, so good.
Here are some games with pretty good netcode. If you're
I was about to spit out my coffee at Dragon Ball, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, that's changing.
not sure if a game has rollback, just Google it, and you'll either find a bunch of blog posts like Punch Kicker adds rollback, or a bunch of Reddit threads like, how come Punch Kicker doesn't have rollback?
Step 3, gearing up.
رول باك ده ممكن نعمل عنه محتوى منفصل.
Another common
الرول
question
باك
is,
نت
what
كود.
do I need to start playing fighting games? And the good news is, if you play other types of games, you're good to go. You need a console or PC and a controller, and that's it. Also,
Console.
a good internet connection.
Console.
More on that later.
Console
You
من غير ما
might think
تفكر.
you need a big fancy fight stick.
Equipments.
I mean, and to be completely honest, you don't even really need a good internet connection. You can have like 1 meg up, 1 meg down, and play fighting games just fine online, you know?
ده يعني مش محتاج انترنت كونكشن كويس لو بتلعب ستوري مود ولا بتلعب معرفش بتلعبوا ايه
The
بس
amount of
لازم
data
انترنت
transfer that
كويس.
happens with like a fighting
What do you
game
mean?
is extremely small, especially if it's peer-to-peer like rollback netcode. And that's the nice thing, is that rollback netcode can actually fix some of those issues where if you do have some crazy packet loss that happens for like a frame or two, which happens a lot of the time, rollback netcode can actually help with that.
But there's really no direct correlation between performance and equipment. Lots of the best players in the world grew up using readily available console controllers and still absolutely kill with them. And the skills and knowledge you develop using one type of controller are totally transferable. There's just a short recalibration period where you need to develop some new muscle memory. That said, if you have the resources and the inclination, fight sticks can be a lot of fun.
Yep. And I say the same thing all the time, that fight sticks don't give you a statistical advantage, like a scientific advantage in any way, especially for the current fighting games. They really don't. They're mostly there for legacy because they're fun, right? They're actually enjoyable to use, and they're really one of the underused aspects of fighting games now. Hitbox is different. Hitbox actually can give you an advantage if you want to
لسه
spend.
كنت هتكلم في النقطة دي والله بس قالها الحمد لله انه قالها. لسه كنت هو بيتكلم عن الليفر او الستيك الستيك كنترولر. بيقول هو مفيش ادفانتج بيديك الستيك كنترولر عن الكنترولر العادي اللي هو الباد. ودي انا موافق عليها مش هيديك اي ادفانتج عادي جدا. لكن الهيت بوكس او الليفرلس اللي زي اللي عندي لا هيديك ادفانتج في الاكسكيوشن. الاكسكيوشن بتاعك مش هيوف. الاكسكيوشن بتاعك مظبوط. المس انبوتس بتاعتك بتقل كتير. اتكلمنا على فكره في الموضوع ده قبل كده في محتوى تاني يعني. فلا الليفرلس يفرق عن الكنترولر، ويفضل دايما الليفرلس تبدا بيه بدري، ما تتمرنش على كنترولر معين وتيجي بعد سنه ولا 6 سنه ولا اقل ولا اكتر تبقى عايز تغيره، لانك لما بتعمل ماسل ميموري على حاجه معينه بيبقى صعب جدا انك تغيرها. يعني لما بديت على طول بديت بالليفرلس، وكان قرار كنت متردد لان ما كنتش عارف لسه هكمل في الفايتنج جيمز ولا لا. بس خدت قرار صح يعني.
And the time to get good at it because of its precise ass inputs.
They're tactile and hefty and they make
ده
good
الليفر.
noises.
And it's
So
fun
let's
to
talk
play.
about it.
يعني بصراحة it's fun.
I mean, I think the reason I like fight sticks the most still to this day, not just for the legacy aspect, because that's a big one, right? You're pretty much preserving arcade legacy with a fight stick. That's really what it is.
Most of the sticks you'll find are ball top square gate, meaning the joystick moves around in a square frame.
هنا
It makes it
النقطة اللي
easy to
بعدها
lock in important boundary.
هايب.
Step 4.
Step 4.
Pipe check.
ايه البايب تشيك؟
If your connection to your opponent is not steady, you're simply not going to have a nice time playing with each other.
Yes.
You'll be more likely to biff your execution, but more importantly, it'll just be sluggish and jittery. So, most of the online fighting game community adhere religiously to the Ethernet cable, because direct wiring takes a big
ماشي يا
failure.
جماعة، ايثرنت كيبل ده اختراع معمول انك تتوصل بالانترنت عشان ما يبقاش فيه لاج. يعني ممكن اعمل عنه محتوى الاختراع ده عظيم لتكن، عظيم والله، لازم تجربوه.
Point out of the networking pipeline. The anti-Wi-Fi sentiment online is severe enough that it will affect your experience. Lots of games have Wi-Fi indicators, and opponents are less likely to accept a match with you if they're worried that you'll have a dodgy connection. That means you should get wired up. When I had roommates, I would run cable down my hallway when I was playing and then coil it up when I was done, so our common spaces weren't a constant tripping hazard. This might involve some negotiation and compromise, but it's absolutely worth it.
Step 5. Choose your fighter.
He's right.
So, who are some good characters for new
I'm
fighting
not
game
the
players? The answer, regardless of the game,
Is Saul
is
bad
whoever
guy?
you think looks cool. Once again, your enthusiasm is going to be the emotional well from which you draw the motivation to grind out combos and do the difficult work of learning.
So the nice thing, Chad, is that I feel like I'm just being validated right now. You know, I feel like at least some people get it. This is the shit that we've been preaching for like, I don't even know how many years it's been. I've been doing this for way too long. This person went through the process. They found the character they liked. They found the thing that they enjoyed, and now they're in love. That's honestly the thing that I've been preaching forever. And it's one of the things that I get constantly spoken to about from people that get into fighting games. Honestly, my biggest goal is just to get you to understand and find things that you love about this franchise or series or genre. And now you just have some amazing thing that you really love to do and play, and you're really good at it. And that feels good to be good at something. So it's just nice to see that from some other front, right? That isn't just me preaching this shit, that like I'm not just talking out of my ass. Like this is how people like eventually get to the point where you're dedicated, right? And you're really enjoying this shit. And this person pretty much went through that same process.
And you don't always have to pick the Ryu of the game to learn the fundamentals. For example, when I started Tekken 7, I played King, because I liked that he was a huge kitty cat man who did all my favorite wrestling moves. He's a great character, but he also has a big, bloated moveset that he's picked up over decades of Tekken games. He's got some complicated inputs, and as a grappler, he approaches combat differently from most of the roster. But I liked him. I liked the way his moves looked. I liked his vibe.
Yep.
So I had the motivation to put in the work.
And this also boils back to an old conversation I had, why we don't need to nerf fighting games for new players. You don't. Even if it's hard and insanely daunting, like that 200 plus move list on King, it didn't matter.
Later, when I picked up Guilty Gear Strive, I went with Soul Bad Guy, because he's kind of the Ryu of that game, and he was really strong at the time. I thought that having a high-tier character who exemplified the fundamentals of that series would help me learn. So I tried for a while, and then I fell off, and told myself maybe Guilty Gear wasn't for me. A few months later, I came back and I tried the character who I really wanted to play all along, and it all clicked.
Potemkin.
I loved looking at my little guy.
Yeah. clearly this person loves like big wrestling moves and grappler
شوف انا
stuff.
بقى يعني
This
كاركتر ممكن
gigantic
يرجعك
hand and
للعبة
this
تاني.
booty drop.
كاركتر واحد
And I
ممكن
love
يرجعك للعبة
busting.
كاملة في الفايتنج جيمز.
So I was motivated to play and learn.
الكاركتر
Don't
أهم
let
من اللعبة
tier
ساعات
lists or
والله.
meta
أنا في
discussions
كاركتر خلتني
dissuade you
أشتري
from
ألعاب
growing. Pick who you think
زي
looks
مارفل
cool.
فيرسس كابكوم
I
شاريها
literally
عند
cannot
دانتي.
say this enough.
سيب 6
I
learn how
like
to
this
play.
video.
learn how to play دي لوحدها ممكن يتعمل فيها محتوى 4
Once you've
ساعات.
selected your little guy, hop into training mode and start hitting buttons. See what they do. See how it feels. Some games like Guilty Gear
learn how to play دي قصة لوحدها. وبصراحة يعني أنا شايف الموضوع لو أنت لوحدك الموضوع ممكن ياخد سنين يعني. لأن no matter how much you learn يعني على قد ما أنت هتتعلم على قد ما أنت هتلاقي إن اللي أنت ما تعرفوش اللي أنت تعرفه نقطة في البحر. كل ما بتزيد معرفتك كل ما العالم بيوسع أكتر. كل ما الدنيا بتتفرع وتبرانش اوت. تتعلم كومبو تلاقي فيه 50 تفرع للكومبو. تتعلم ماسكة تلاقي فيه 50 حاجة. ف كوميونتي مهمة. الكوميونتي مهمة.
Strive and Mortal Kombat have decent tutorials that explain fighting game
وحد
fundamentals
بيلعب
and
كويس
include
يكون معاك
challenges
مهمة
to
جدا
test your
جدا
knowledge.
جدا
Any fighting
جدا.
game worth playing will also have a full command list in the start menu. If you like what you're feeling, hop onto YouTube and search for some character guides.
احنا محظوظين دلوقتي ان في يوتيوب. يعني لما تفتح يوتيوب هتلاقي التوب
This is a really cool thing about
top
fighting
games, top
They
characters,
are
top
complicated.
combos,
There are hurdles to overcome, but that
guides.
complexity is also what makes them so satisfying and
Like this was actually a very important thing for me when new Tekken characters were coming out, where some people would make quick guides, right? Of like, okay, what is this character's like 15 best moves? Because Tekken's a game that can be really difficult to learn how to play, and it's got a lot of shit to deal with at any given time. So a quick guide would just be like, okay, so here's your good mids, here's your low, here's your launcher, here's the stuff that you want to do. This launcher's trash, don't use it. And there would be a ton of like really good resources when the first week a character came out for Tekken that was like, oh, I'm just going to use all this stuff, and then I'm just naturally going to learn the other moves as I play the game and figure shit out.
fun to play. And people want other people to share in that fun, so they'll put in hours and hours and hours of work to make wonderful guides. Like and subscribe. Character guides are great. Looking at your move list in a game is helpful, but it doesn't instruct you on the overall strategy for that character. A good guide will highlight the most important tools your character has and how to use those tools to win. When you watch a guide, don't expect to internalize everything all at once. That's a ton of information and it's just not realistic.
ton of
I've watched the
information
same
وبتاخد
guides
انا
over and
لغايه
over
دلوقتي
again
يعني
over
انا
the course of
كام
weeks,
شهر
months, and even years.
8 شهور
Every
بتعلم في
time I
شخصيه
rewatch,
واحده.
I'll
8
notice the
شهور
things that I've
بتعلم
learned
كل
and
يوم
incorporate
بتمرن على
into my
شخصيه
play,
واحده.
and I'll
بتعلم
make note of the things
تفرعات
that I
فيها
still need to
كاركتر
do.
واحد.
In terms of written resources,
It's crazy.
that's going to depend on the game you're playing. Guilty Gear and other ArcSys games have comprehensive guides on dustloop.com. A lot of Tekken info is in Google spreadsheets that get passed around on Reddit. Figuring out where your game lives online is just a matter of Googling. As you watch and read, hop into training mode and work on a few bread and butter combos. Don't worry about optimizing yet. You need to develop your muscle memory to the point where you can hit your combos.
Yeah, and this I was about to say, and I wonder if he's going to say it too. The very basic understanding that what you practice in training mode does not directly translate to actual matches. And especially in training mode, most of the time when you start a game, you want to do the stuff that's fun, which is combos, and that's fine, right? That's these other
نلخص
characters
النقطة
do.
يعني
See what your
بعدها
character does, what usually
X7
works, what doesn't
fight
work.
a
And the
human.
problem is that not everyone has that mental capacity when it comes to certain games, right? I know several people throughout my life that are pretty good at fighting games, but they won't get past a certain space just because they'll learn some things and just apply the some things they learned and never actually get any better, you know? They won't apply any new things to essentially reaching new plateaus and stuff, and just be completely okay with being at this like this attitude level of just knowing this couple of things, and then I can just jump in and play and apply these couple of things. And guess what? That's completely fine. That is completely fine. A lot of people are like, and you don't really need to elevate yourself to all these like crazy like levels and shit. That's completely fine. And for me, it's like it happens, and I ultimately have to ask myself for a lot of these games, am I frustrated, right? Is there outside factors of the fighting game that I'm playing that make me not want to continue this path, you know? And unfortunately, for a lot of fighting games that I've played and covered over the past many years, yes, there would be several aspects of fighting games that just frustrate the shit out of me, completely unrelated to the actual fighting itself, which is why this genre is still sort of stuck in this weird spot that it is, because all these outside factors between matchmaking and rollback netcode or funky online or shitty lobbies or a non-existent ranked, like all this kind of shit can be really challenging, much less to the entire population of the game dropping off the face of the earth like DNF fucking duel. If I could still keep running into people as I'm trying to get my legend rank up, but the problem is I can't. I'm going to get like the same 2 or 3 people, and that's demotivating as shit. Yeah, fighting is important. Just getting into a game and learning how to play it and just throwing matches at your face is really important. And it's one of the things that gets you beyond that hurdle, right? That hurdle of like, oh, I kind of know how to play this game, to actually being really good at it.
A human.
Yes, sir.
Sitting here on this screen for the first time can be scary. I mean, maybe not for you. Maybe you're some sort of real fucking cool guy. But for me, not knowing what would happen when I hit that matchmaker
That was a great place to drop the F-bomb.
button was nerve-wracking. Another real human being is about to see you fumble around with your buttons and drop your combos and forget to block in real time. But it's okay. It'll be fine. As intimidating as that human-to-human connection is,
This is actually a great point, right? This is why I think like streamer mode for some fighting games would be good. I think it would actually be very beneficial if it just randomized your name or something like that when you were playing online, and you get the choice of whether or not you get the ability to have your information displayed. It would be nice just to be relatively anonymous for a little bit, and I can sort of sympathize in some situations how new players, especially non-practiced players, would just like to jump in and learn shit, you know? So I kind of sympathize with this a lot.
it's also absolutely core to the joy of fighting games. Now, I'm not saying there's no value to fighting the CPU. It is a good way to keep learning your own character's moveset and develop muscle memory. It can also help you familiarize yourself with the capabilities of other characters. You can learn that Sagat has this big kick and this uppercut and, whoa, 2 different fireballs. But once you've mentally logged that stuff, there's not much more it can do to prepare you for fighting a real person.
Unfortunately
Despite
true.
advances in fighting game AI, the CPU won't string those moves together like a human opponent, and fighting a robot is just not as fun. So take a deep breath, set your expectations low, and hit that matchmaking button. Or one of those matchmaking buttons. Most fighting games are going to have a couple of options, so let's go over those.
عارفين الستيب 8 ستراجل.
Struggle.
انا بستراجل بس انا في ستيب 8 من
Isn't
ساعه
it
ما ابتديت
past
اصلا.
your bedtime?
At the end of a fighting game match, you win or you lose. There's no teammates to blame for not pulling their weight. There's no XP meter sliding up to reward you for your participation. You will, beyond a shadow of a doubt,
Which there should be.
pulling their weight. There's
just
no
say that.
XP meter sliding up to reward you for your participation.
There should be. let's just say that the fact that that isn't the way, the fact that you're not getting reward just for playing, there should be a reason, even if you're losing, to like level up your characters and shit, to level up a battle pass or some bullshit, right? I mean, there's a reason why so many fucking people are playing multiverses right now, and it's because they are getting rewarded for losing. They're not rewarded even more so for winning? Clearly not. No, you get way more for winning. But the fact that there is something happening, even if you apply your effort to something, is good. Because even if you lose, do you think that information is valueless? No. Should you just be punished for attempting to fight somebody that is way better than you? I don't think so.
You will, beyond a shadow of a doubt, lose a lot. Self-doubt and frustration can feel overwhelming when you're in the thick of it.
I mean, just to add to the subject, I think a lot of people come from a super boomer attitude where not everyone sees so many different perspectives of fighting games like I do, and they're still stuck in this like FGC bubble where it's like you getting the opportunity to lose to somebody that's much better than you is where the value is. Of getting your ass beat is essentially like a very much arcade mentality. You're gonna have to just put the money back in the machine until you eventually win type shit, right? And yeah, I get it. Like that's the way it was. That's the way anybody that was in the 90s or the early 2000s, that's the way you grew up learning fighting games. Because guess what? There was no other options, motherfucker. Like now there's a billion other options of things to play and things to do that give you all these different aspects for you to play the game in a variety of casual ways and reward you for even not fucking playing the game. Fighting games have not fucking changed. Like things are just, everything else is changing. Fighting games just aren't, right? The thing that's getting better is that our shit finally actually works online. Oh, thank God, right? Thank God they're actually functioning now over the past couple of years. That's nice. But still, we're in a situation that everything is still mimicking the classic arcade mentality. You just get stronger and better. That is your reward. Your reward is brownie points. Your reward is that you get to brag. How about
عشان كده الجنرا دي مختلفة. عشان كده الجنرا دي مختلفة عن أي نوع من ألعاب نوع
you
الجيمز.
just actually give tangible in-game rewards for things? And I think that should be actually a part of fighting games moving forward. And guess what? That's a thing that like free-to-play games kind of have to do already, which is why free-to-play tends to feel like it would work very well with the fighting game genre in general. I don't know.
But it is all a part of the process of getting better. So here are a few tips for
Good luck breaking that shit.
separate your self-worth from your performance.
ماسكة كينج اللي ما
Okay, I know
بتتكسرش
this
دي.
is kind of like saying stop being mentally ill, but it still needs to be said. You are not your win-loss ratio. Getting demoted doesn't mean you suck as a person, even if it feels that way. And if you start feeling that way,
It feels that way. It feels حاليا في الأزرق والله it feels that way. يعني بحس ان مش عارف يعني ستاك الازرق بحس ان انا بني ادم مش كويس.
it's time
مش عارف
to
اعدي الرانك
take a
الازرق دي
damn
بتحسسني ان
break.
انا يعني
Taking a
ضعيف.
break doesn't just let you cool off. It makes you better.
And here's like the reality that what this person is saying is completely true, right? This stuff is absolutely and completely true. But the reality of the situation is that's the drop-off point.
عليكم
That's where
السلام.
you lose your players. And I think that there needs to be things to be done in fighting game online matchmaking that should try to alleviate that situation. There should be active effort put into this person is struggling a lot. What can we do for them so that they don't just fucking stop? How do we matchmake them in some ways that might give them a chance?
دي حاجة انا فكرت فيها والله. دي حاجة انا فكرت فيها قبل كده. وانا شايف ان تيكن نظام البراوس بتاعها ونقاط المهارات السيستم اللي عاملينه غير عادل تماما من اي شكل من الاشكال. غير عادل تماما. انه يماتش اللاعبين. انه اولا الناس اللي بتوصل لاعلى رانك God of Destruction ولما يبداوا كاركتر جديد يبداوا من فوجن. ده غير عادل تماما. لما نقاط البراوس لما انت تعدي 200,000 نقطة مهارة بيعمل لك ماتش اب مع ناس تانية هي 200,000. يعني انت بيسويك لو انت شخص بدأت بشخصيات كتيرة قوي. لو انت بدأت بشخصيات كتيرة وعملت هنا رانك هنا رانكين هنا 3 وطلعت بكل واحد كام رانك دول هيجمعوا معاك كام؟ ممكن 200,000. نفس الحاجة لو خدت كاركتر واحد بس وطلعته لأعلى رانك هتعدي برضو 200,000. فالنظام اللي في تيكن موجود ان هو 200,000 براوز دي سواء انت طلعتها او هو طلعها انتوا الاثنين هتماتشوا في الاخر. مع ان ده فرق السماء والارض. ده واحد لسه بيرجع يلعب كاركترز كتير في رانكات جاريو. ده بيلعب كاركتر واحد بس عرف فاونديشن وطلع اعلى رانك. والاثنين البراوز بتاعهم بيقابلهم في الماتشات. How is that fair يعني؟ ده يعني هم بيتكلموا ان هم ايز. لا تيكن عم مصعبه الوضع اكتر مش مسهله يعني. مش طبيعي مش نيوترال. لا هو بيقول ان احنا عايزين نسهل الموضوع اللي ستاك في الجيم نلاقي له حل يعني. وده اللي المفروض يحصل.
Against like other players. Does our game even have the population for that shit, you know?
When your hands are off the joystick and you're doing something else, your brain keeps gently churning on those situations, looking for the solutions that you couldn't find in the heat of the moment. Your body is rewiring neuron pathways to make your execution smoother and better. Playing fighting games feels a bit more like a traditional skill-based hobby like playing guitar.
Yes. And that's daunting for a lot of people because it takes so much fucking time. And you're not wrong. It's the reality of the situation. This is why whenever I get the question, how do I get good at fighting games really fast? Well, I'll tell you how to get good at fighting games. The really fast part isn't going to happen. How much better do you actually
اصاب عين الدور. to get good in fighting games مقدور
Want to
عليها،
get.
لكن
Are you trying to
بسرعة
beat your little brother?
cannot be.
Are you trying to beat somebody at like a family event? Are you trying to win, you know, like go to a game night with your friends? Or are you actually wanting to get better? If it's any of those previous ones I mentioned, I'm going to say pick Ken because he has the flaming Shoryuken that's invincible. And no one's going to be able to fucking stop you. You're going to find something that is absolutely a, what's quote unquote, a scrub killer move. And if you want to beat your little brother or go to a game night and win some local between just you and your friends, yeah, you're going to win. And guess what? No one else is going to like you. That's the reality of the situation. You're going to win, and you're going to learn that nobody will respect your skill. That happens anyway, even at the highest level of fighting games. Right? Which is why it's a deep personal journey. Even if you are the best at fighting games, even if you are in any competitive element, you're going to get every single other person saying they don't deserve it, they actually suck, they got an easy bracket. Everyone's going to do their best to like disenfranchise you from your accomplishments. That just is a natural fucking thing in the world. You have to figure out what you want out of the situation. You have to figure out what is your personal goal, because if you're out there to impress others with you being like good at fighting games, in most situations where it's like you're not a fucking entertainer like me or something like that, you're going to lead yourself to, I don't want to play you in this anymore. You know? I don't like playing you in these things anymore.
There's a base level of effort and self-direction. You need to get enjoyment out of it. That means that you won't always have the mental energy to do it. And that's okay, don't force it. A break from fighting games can be a couple hours or a couple months. That you won't always have the mental energy to do it. And that's okay, don't force it. A break from fighting games can be a couple hours or a couple months. The games will still be there when you get back, and your body will remember what to do. Watch replays. God, this one is so hard. It's like hearing your voice in a recording or seeing yourself on video.
watch replays. أيوه
Do I really do that?
النصيحة اللي دايما باخدها من
But
البروز
it's
يعني
so
watch
valuable and
replays.
you can't neglect
watch
it.
replays watch
Most
replays
fighting
ومش
games
ماتش
keep
ولا
a
ماتشين
log
ولا
of your
ثلاثة
most
يعني
recent
هتشوفهم
matches with the
كلهم.
ability to play them back. You should take advantage of that. Seeing yourself play can help you recognize habits that you want to correct. It can also help you appreciate what you do well and what you want to do more of.
دي بقى الحاجات اللي
And
فعلا
when you're feeling
اللي بيلعب
really
كاجوال ما
brave,
يفهمهاش.
take the
يعني
next
ايه
step.
واتش ريبلاي،
Show
يعني
your
ايه
gameplay
اتفرج
to
على نفسي
someone
العب
else
تاني،
and ask them for tips.
يعني ايه انا اتعلمت
But
كومبو
before you
اتعلم
can do
كومبو
that,
عليه تاني،
first
يعني
you
ايه
need
اتعلمت حاجة غيرها،
Night,
يعني ايه
community and competition.
Oh yeah.
community and competition.
This can be one of the
ده اللي
greatest joys
حضراتكم
of
بنعمله
fighting games.
للكوميونتي،
The fighting
بننظم
game
بطولات
community
وبنخلي
is
الناس
the name of the collective, but it's not
تشد في الجيم.
monolithic. There are hundreds or thousands of Discord communities out there for fighting games. Some are game specific, some are character specific, some are geared towards certain demographics and skill levels. Your opponent isn't going to keep any secrets, because people who have decided that they want to get good at fighting games have signed an unspoken
ده اللي
contract.
بنقوله على طول، اي حد في فايتنج جيمز حتى لو مستواه ضعيف لازم يشارك في اي ايفنت يقدر يشارك فيه، اونلاين اوف لاين. النقله للمستوى رهيبه يعني.
And there is no end.
One of the many wonderful and intimidating things about fighting games is that there's no prescribed end goal for your participation. There's no final boss or end game treadmill.
لا في فاينل بوس، وكل واحد عنده فاينل بوس. هيومن فاينل بوس بيبقى بشري في
Even the best
يبقى دايما
fighting
في ليفل او واحد قدامك قوه وتبقى عايز توصل لمستواه وعايز تغلبه يعني.
only the best
ولو
until
غلبته
someone
بتتباهى بيها
surpasses
طول
them.
عمرك.
No matter where you are in your journey, in some sense,
يعني الناس اللي
you're
بتروح
still at the beginning.
ايفو
That means you
بيدرسوا
won't always know the next
ارسلان
step
قبل ما يروح
forward, but it also means you're
ويذاكروا
never
طريقة لعبه.
falling behind. And as long as you're on that path, learning and having fun, you're doing it right.
عجبني الفيديو جامد، محتوى جميل والله، محتوى جميل جدا. قال كلام كتير كان في مخي يعني، بما ان صانع اللي عمل المحتوى ده مر بنفس تجربتي يعني، جاي من جنرا العاب تانية ودخل فايتنج جيمز وقال الكلام اللي فعلا تخيله يعني. جي جيز